got it.
Alrighty.
Yay, here we
You
go.
ready to go?
Yes, no, absolutely.
Alrighty, so we are here with Senator Shannon Grove. She is the representative for the Senate at the 16th district. I'm so happy that we got to meet. You know, it's been quite some time since we first connected. I know you're super busy with everything that you have going on in the Capitol. A lot of nonsense and a lot of progress, I hope. You know, it's really nice to see that the barricades are finally down.
Exactly.
And we can have this interview right here in the front of the Capitol, because I was trying to have we were going to have it in the back.
Right.
And it's crazy to see that you see all the barricades with the handcuffs.
Yes.
It's very theatrical to me, and I don't really understand how we could have left so many barricades up for so long. Was it really that much of a threat to the Capitol?
No. They were just trying to keep people out.
Yeah.
It was just because of COVID. So the governor's response and the Democrat majority response to COVID has just been outrageous. Barricades, like you couldn't even come on the property, because if you did, you might bring COVID onto the property, and it's a huge outdoor area like we're sitting in. I don't know if you can get a video of it later, but and then in the building, you walk in, they take your temperature. You have to test twice a week to make sure you're negative. You wear a mask. You sit behind plexiglass. I mean, I bet 95% of the Capitol staff and legislators are vaccinated, and you still have to sit behind plexiglass, still wear a mask, even though you can. I mean, and think about it. Think about the governor's response, right? When you walk into a restaurant, you have to wear a mask because I guess COVID is up here, but not when you sit down. So actually, we could be sitting inside as long as there was food between us. Mm-hmm. But if there was no food and just this phone, we're more exposed.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
And you know what really just blows my mind is that, I'm from Yuba City, mm-hmm. and Yuba City just seems to be a completely different world than it is down here in the South. I go to Davis, come here to Sacramento, and we just see people just acting completely different. They're just completely desocialized. They're wearing their masks. They're enforcing the mask mandates like crazy. You'll be walking down the street and someone will be like, "Can you put on a mask?" Or you'll
outside.
We're outside, And then especially just this morning, I walked into Starbucks. I walked in without a mask. We had ordered before we came, and they were like, "Hey, can you wear a mask?" I was like, "Listen, I'm just gonna get my stuff and go." Because I'm done arguing with people at this point, It just doesn't make any sense. The masks are an obvious politicized tool.
Yes.
It is now.
It's obviously political.
You're making a statement by wearing the mask and not wearing the mask. And, that's the big thing that I really wanted to bring up is the entire discrimination aspect, the segregation aspect. I read an article this morning saying that vaccine passports are a possibility coming up soon. And they're saying that, say we go to a theater, and they're going to have a section for vaccinated people and a section for unvaccinated people. And the vaccinated people get to sit shoulder to shoulder while the unvaccinated have to social distance. I don't understand that. If it really gives me the sense of segregation, back in the olden times.
Segregation and discrimination.
It's whites only, blacks only. And that just really does not make any sense to me. It's so bitterly obvious, but we're just allowing it to unfold. So I just really want to see what your opinion is on.
So I think that if an individual wants to be vaccinated, be vaccinated. And if you don't want to be vaccinated, don't be vaccinated. And the bottom line is that, the Democrats are always about my body, my choice. Well, what about this? My body, my choice. And so I just think that, like I said, if someone wants to be vaccinated, but you should not be denied to purchase goods and services, right? Like Costco's or Target's. They shouldn't deny you entry if you're not wearing a mask just because you don't prove you're vaccinated. It's to fly on an airplane. Look at this. When we go on an airplane, I flew back to Florida back last year when the height of what the pandemic was. You waited 6 feet in line on the little red circles. They actually chastised you if you stepped out of the circle and crowded into somebody else's 6-foot space. But then you get on the plane and you're literally shoulder to shoulder in seats. Like, we have more room between us than we do right now than we did on the plane sitting next to people, random strangers that you don't even know. So the whole process with COVID and the response and the hypocrisy, the big thing from the hypocrisy, from Nancy Pelosi going to the salon when no one was allowed to go to a salon, from Governor Newsom going to the French Laundry, to his kids being in-person learning in private school, a very expensive private school because he can afford it. But yet parents that can't afford a private school are struggling all across the state of California, and they can't put their kids in in-person learning, but the governor can. I mean, all of that is hypocrisy. And my response to the governor, and I have a text message, was that if he believed for one moment, just one brief moment, about what he was putting out that was true, if he believed for one moment that COVID was as deadly as he was putting out in his administration, he'd have never gone to that restaurant unmasked with all those people that were not from his household and put his wife and children in danger. He wouldn't do it. He would not do it. If Nancy Pelosi believed for one moment that shutting down the salons, right, was the solution to prevent people from getting COVID, she'd have never gone to a salon. You know, and then just recently you have her on TV and she's fining people for not wearing masks because they're not vaccinated. But yet then the next day she's on the news because she's in a party at the White House with no mask. Mm-hmm. And there's people in that room that aren't vaccinated. So
Absolutely.
it's just hypocrisy, I think, is the worst. And I think people in the state of California are getting tired of it. Very tired of it.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things, I've been working with a lot of businesses in my area, and it seems like there's just been that blatant hypocrisy of the corporations getting the favor while you see all these small local businesses, these private businesses that are suffering. You know, they close down their doors. They're never going to open again. A lot of pillars of the community, you know, businesses that have been there for so long, I know them personally, and they've been contributing to my community for so long, yet I see them drying up, no more resources for them, while everyone goes to Walmart or everyone goes to Staples. And that just really breaks my heart.
It's sad that the way the response the governor did really affected small business. I have small groomers in my area, dog groomers, and they're like, you know, if you can go to Costco and Lowe's, why can't you bring your dog to be dropped off? You know, this is my livelihood, my business. And so I read some more on the executive order, and I go to Costco and buy a case of dog food and just put it on the shelf, because if you sell dog food, you can be open. And she goes, you're kidding me. She goes, what do I do when I run out? And she goes, I'd have to keep going back. And I said, no, put a $50 price tag. You know, put a $50 price tag per can. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as it's for sale.
Yeah.
So that's the way she was able to circumvent that, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know what's going on over here, but sorry for the interruption. Sorry for the interruption. We're not sure what's going on over here. But small businesses, small restaurant owners, you know, small bookstores. I mean, and, you know, the churches too, right? He said you couldn't go to church, but you could go to Costco, Walmart, or Target. That's discrimination against
Absolutely.
the faith community. If you can wear a mask and be safe at Costco, you can wear a mask and be safe at church. And that's why Matt Staver at Liberty Council took on a lot of pastors here, took on the governor on their behalf, and they're winning and settling cases left and right. Che On, down at Harvest Rock, Papa Che On, who's engaging politically just so good. I'm just so proud of him for doing that. He filed the lawsuit, and he's the first one that got the settlement for $1.3 million. The governor has to pay him back because it was discrimination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as far as churches go, would you say that our ability to worship is going to be preserved in the future? Can we make sure that we don't lose that ability in the future? Because that is something that seems to be attacked consistently by these institutions, by these administrations, that we are being taken away the ability to go to church and worship God, you know, to praise God and do these things. It's religion is being attacked.
It's not only that religion is being attacked. You know, we're in the United States of America, and pastors are being threatened with arrest. Calvary Chapel down in Thousand Oaks, Rob McCoy, he said, you know, the sheriff showing up today, I think they're going to arrest me, right? You know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. Now, they settled. They won. The same with Che On. They threatened to arrest him. The Bay Area, a $2 million fine levied against a pastor for preaching the gospel. This is the United States of America. And pastors are, you know, being threatened for arrest. But again, the hypocrisy. You can go to Walmart, Target, anywhere, and you can purchase goods and services, be in the room, you can talk, you can, whatever, but they don't allow you to go to church. But that's over. We won the Supreme Court, but we should have never had to fight that battle.
Ever.
And we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant, and we have to fight to protect our constitutional rights.
Absolutely.
In California, we have fewer constitutional rights than almost any other state in the nation. And
Absolutely.
we have to stand up and fight.
Absolutely. I'm an ardent constitutionalist. You know, everywhere I go, I cite the Constitution because people don't know. People don't know their own constitutional rights, and it makes me really sad. So, you know, I'm a graduate from UC Davis. And we recently...
You're a graduate from UC Davis?
I am, yeah,
wow.
I graduated with a degree in economics. My minor is political science. I graduated this last winter.
Okay.
So, but essentially, we received an email recently from this school, and they were doing an event for All Cops Are Bastards and Abolish the Police. Now, so we went over there and we wanted to go get some footage, you know, take a look and see what's going on. What are these students up to? So we gathered some footage, and what we saw is that these students had no idea what they were even there for. We were approaching some of the older people that were there. There was literature in front of them, and we asked them, you know, what's going on? What are you guys here for? And they're like, oh, the literature's on the table.
They don't know.
You know, they don't even know what they're standing for, and it really makes me sad because I support our police. I love police. I know a lot of policemen and women. I know a lot of sheriffs, deputies, and stuff like that. And they're fantastic, beautiful people. And it seems like they're being indoctrinated in our universities.
Who are they going to call? You know, who are you going to call if you have a restraining order against a domestic violence, perpetrator? Who are you going to call when you dial 911? Who's going to respond? A social worker? Who are you going to call? I mean, police never know at any moment of their day where they're going to have to go when they come into an incident, right? They could be just serving a warrant and end up at gunfire. They have to be prepared for everything, and we have to support our law enforcement. And to think that you can just abolish law enforcement and not support the police is the most absurd idea ever. It's just crazy. There's a lot of bills regarding police officers that are going through the building. Use of force. There is a decertification bill going in so that if a panel of, I'm sure, activists, because they'll be appointed by the governor, the pro tem, and the speaker. So this panel will be put together to look at and review cases where officers have been, they feel like complaints have been filed against him, and then they can decertify him so they can't ever be police officers again. Who's going to want to go into that profession to protect us?
Exactly.
It's very frustrating.
And we can see it with the migration of all the police out of Portland, out of all these cities that are just being destroyed by BLM and Antifa. They're leaving. They don't want to serve. You know, they're putting their lives on the line for us to live our lives safely, freely, and unfortunately they just aren't appreciated.
You know, you brought up Antifa and you brought up Portland, Oregon. That's been going on for almost a year now. Mm-hmm. They took over that city. Yeah. What about the businesses in that community that can no longer operate because they're surrounded by the chop zone, or they're surrounded by individuals camping out in their front door? It's just absurd. It's
absolutely. And going back to the university.
Excuse me, I have COVID.
It's okay. You don't have to worry.
It's these little thingies that
you don't have to worry about that with me. I think we're good. We're from a different world up there.
Hey, I'm from Free Kern County.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm from Free Yuba Sutter County.
Okay.
So
I'm from Free Kern County.
But going back to what's going on at UC Davis, it completely went off the charts when we started opposing their viewpoints. They got aggressive with us. So I need to ask you, are you familiar with the name Joshua Clover, Professor Joshua Clover?
No, I am not.
So Professor Joshua Clover is a professed Marxist. He is an English professor out there at UC Davis. He's the one that put together the event. And he's been quoted as saying that cops cannot be reformed, they must all be killed. Right? So
and that man is paid for by taxpayer dollars.
Exactly. So here's another thing is that, we were out here and it started getting aggressive when we were giving our opposing viewpoints. And it got to a point when I was in a face-off with him and I had my MAGA hat on.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? And everyone was chanting, fascists go home, fascists go home. And it got to a point where, they got aggressive and they pushed us. I ended up in an arm lock and the professor picked up a rock from the ground and he was hitting our equipment to getting us to leave, and they were all cheering for it. They were all cheering.
God.
So what I think in my mind is when I see this person that's supposed to be an example to our children, to these young kids that are leaving home, going from high school to university, and this is what they're learning. In the very email that they sent out to all these students, I received the email too, they have pictures of burning cop cars. What I just don't understand how at a public university, at one of the greatest universities in this country, how can we have this sort of example leading these kids down this path of indoctrination? It makes no sense.
It's one of my favorite scriptures that I have in the Bible is Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge, right? And so they have lack of knowledge. And when you look at what is going on in the state of California, especially what you just said, I had not heard about that. So I'd love to get that information and
Absolutely,
get it out there.
Yeah.
So it's pathetically sick that our tax dollars go to pay an individual that does not represent balance in the university system, but has a one-way activist view and attacks a student, or a former student, or even participates in any type of riot or violence in that way, in any way, shape, or form, or holds a rally that says something about our law enforcement.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's just absurd, and I'd love to have that information
Yeah, absolutely.
so that we could get it
And
out
I think
there
you'll
so
love to
people
know. I think you'll love to know Representative Gallagher. He actually tried to get him fired multiple times before, and the Davis College Republicans have tried to get him fired multiple times before also. And it just blows my mind because I reached out to the leader of the Davis College Republicans, and they don't even want to try. They're like, we've tried before, we're giving up, there's nothing we can do, the school doesn't care.
We can't give up.
Exactly.
We cannot give up. I was reading the file this morning. I woke up about 3 o'clock and I was reading the file that we have to face tomorrow, because every day there's a new file. I think there were 189 items yesterday, 169 items a day before that, or 68, something like that. So bills just come in an avalanche, right? And so I started reading the file, and I read for about an hour, and then I just put it away because I couldn't read it anymore. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. So for instance, I just want to share this, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to read the exact language of this bill, and then you just give me your interpretation.
Absolutely.
Okay? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so this bill deals with loitering and prostitution. That's it. Deals. So I'm just setting the stage. The bill. So it actually repeals existing criminal statutes. It repeals these statutes that pertain to loitering with the intent to engage in prostitution, and it also repeals any arrest or prosecution of the loiterer, prostitute, or sex worker, their supervisor, or their trainer, or their recruiter. What does that mean to you?
It sounds like the legalization of prostitution
And human trafficking.
And but my question is, when
You're going
there's
to protect the supervisor of
the
and the
pimp,
recruiter?
the pimp,
Yes.
essentially the pimp.
No, but the word says supervisor. I'm just reading. Okay, so it's legislative language, but it says, the supervisor, the recruiter, or the trainer of women or of prostitutes.
That is absolutely disgusting to me. And I don't understand how, when there's so many other pressing matters that we have on the books.
Oh no.
Why is this a focus?
Because this is the Democrat focus. So I thought, oh man, a horrible bill, right? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way it's going to pass. It's going to pass. So then I move on to the next bill.
Oh man.
The next bill decriminalizes using any hallucinogens like LSD, MSDA. So you can have in your possession and enough to share. It does say share any type of hallucinogen or psychotropic drug, or all those drugs that make you hallucinate and stuff. They'll totally be legal for you to share with your friends.
Interesting. So I will say though, so I am quite so have you heard of the psychedelic renaissance?
No.
Yeah, so the psychedelic renaissance is essentially, they're looking into more of the mental health aspects of psychedelics, the spiritual aspects, and looking at it for more of not a recreational use, to have fun and, trip out and do things like that, but it's more of like for spiritual growth and understanding our minds and the mental abilities of growing.
That's not what
through
this bill
psychedelics,
is about.
but that's not what that's about.
I see homeless people that are down on their luck. You can drive down 12th Street and see homeless camps everywhere, just people down on their luck. And with no hope, right? There's no hope because, it's not like you can go to the DMV and get a number and then get off the street, right? It just seems like it just keeps growing and they keep throwing money at it. And it just seems hopeless when you look at how the Democrats are handling the homeless situation. So if somebody goes out and you can just, have these, drugs just add to that aspect. I think of,
Portland.
I think of what, our young kids that have been in, isolated from their friends. Child abuse has gone up, isolation, suicide, depression, all that's gone up. And now these are going to be totally legal drugs. It's sad.
So I went up to Portland recently, and one of the things that I saw is that, there's homeless people that are just drugged out. They're aggressive. I was driving around and someone almost assaulted me in the car. They tried to grab my equipment I was photographing. Another person said they're going to wrap my seatbelt around my neck. And I just see pure evil. Evil. But
you also have to have a heart. Like when I was walking over here, I drove down that road right there, in street to pull into the garage. And when you get there, there's a guy with no shirt on and his pants are falling down below his knees and he's walking and his hands are this and he's talking in the air. So that person needs help.
Yeah.
You can't just leave people. I see old people in wheelchairs, that are trying to make it up a hill to go to that's wrong that those people are on the streets and we're not doing. The Democrat majority is just throwing money at their friends in these departments and areas where they're not doing anything. Billions of dollars have been spent on the homeless, and it's increased.
Absolutely.
The homeless population is increased.
Absolutely.
And so anyways, that's just one of the worries that we have here.
And to kind of stay on the drug thing, so one of my major questions, we are in California, marijuana is recreational legal here. So one of the things that I've noticed is that with a lot of younger conservatives that are kind of on the more like, marijuana vibe and stuff like that. What is up with conservatives and marijuana? Why is there such a huge opposition to just accepting the fact that, it's not that bad, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't want to put you in the hot seat or anything about that.
You're not putting me in the hot seat. I have my own opinion, and I don't care.
Absolutely.
You can agree with me or not. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So I'm a child of the Most High God. I'm a business owner. I'm a United States military veteran, but I'm also a mom and a grandma. And my grandkids, my daughters and my son, they drive on these streets with, my grandkids in the car. And do I want somebody high? I don't want them driving under the influence of alcohol and be exposed to that, an accident. And I don't want you high on the road, to drive. I just don't want, I want to prevent, car accidents, under the influence driving, no matter what it is. And I think legalizing marijuana just it's a gateway drug, and it creates a way to go to, higher drugs. And I'm not like, somebody might say, oh, grab onto your pearls or whatever, but I'm not that person. I mean, I'm the person that grew up on the streets of Arvin. I did so much drugs when I was in high school. You guys would have no idea, right? I barely graduated from high school. I went to a continuation high school. People go, oh my God, you're the first female veteran. Tell me your story. How did you get there? And I'm like, well, I had a choice. I had to make a choice. I'd either go to the military or, face some consequences. Yeah. And my friend and I were facing those consequences together. My high school friend, I lost touch, but anyways. And so this commercial comes on and says, go to the Army, be all that you can be on the buddy system, go to Europe. And we're like, okay, so we made that choice. Yeah. But
thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. I'm a veteran also. I was in the Air Force for quite some time, so it's great.
It was the best time of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really was. And, God's got plan. And like I said, I made history in the building, being the first female veteran ever elected. So I'm not a prude. I just think that it creates havoc. I mean, if you want to do it, stay at home, but don't go out in public. Don't cause havoc with police being high. Yeah. Don't drive on the roads when you don't have full complete, whether you're drinking or, or doing drugs. Just don't, right?
Yeah, I absolutely respect that. I respect your opinion. It's just, it blows my mind that it can change the perspective of a person completely. Right. Like you can see someone for what being someone amazing, and then all of a sudden you find out that they smoke weed, and it just goes all goes out the window.
Yes.
But I completely see where you're coming from, because I don't want that either. I don't want people being sloppy on the road or being unsafe, because that just puts everyone else in danger, and that's not okay.
It's not just on the road. It's at public events. It's confrontation with law enforcement. It's anywhere that you don't have your, right mind.
Absolutely.
But then there's like your professor at UC Davis that's not his right mind, and he's probably not on drugs.
He's not on drugs at all. He's just out of his mind. So one of the things I also want to really tackle is censorship.
Okay.
When I first met you, I asked you, what can I do? What can I do to do more? And you said, just it's voices like yours, you got to speak up and do things. But it's been such a hard battle with censorship. We're on our second strike on YouTube right now, and they're about to try to delete our channel. So we've been tiptoeing, and it just really blows my mind that we're battling at this just to express ourselves freely. I don't understand it.
The issue with censorship and freedom of speech, the First Amendment, freedom of association. Again, if you want who you choose to associate with or how you choose to speak. Now, I don't think people should get on, I ban people from my page. I do. You're not supposed to, because you're a legislator of freedom of speech. But you get on the page and you're like, F you, and you don't contribute to the conversation.
It's disgusting.
I mean, I'm not, again, not a prude, but, you want to engage in a conversation with me, then engage in a conversation. But when somebody posts something that you don't like, don't go, F you, you be, da-da-da-da-da. I'm done with you. But I think, so I've been banned. Facebook has put me on Facebook timeout several times.
Me too.
Twitter has put me on timeout. And, I got beat the heck out of because I supported President Trump. I still support President Trump. I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest presidents ever. And I think that the elite on both sides were so in a position where they couldn't control him. And he just did what was right for we the people, regardless of what his party, our party or the other party said. And I think that a lot of people had a problem with that.
How insane is this?
This is insane. You should videotape some of that. It's like, that's what we're listening to. It's like, what is that?
Like, why?
Why? I have no idea.
But
welcome to our world.
Yeah, seriously. It's just
but the censorship, I mean, you know, finally they're going to let you talk about the Wuhan virus and the escape of the virus, but they wouldn't let you do that. We put stuff about COVID that is true, you know. I had a person contact me and her mom died and they labeled it as a COVID death. And I text her and I said, I knew her. I said, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I understand it was a COVID death. And she goes, no, she died with COVID. But when she got COVID, she was in an elderly care facility. She was on hospice in the transition stage. So she had already not eaten for 13 days. They said, look, she's transitioning what they call from life to death, right? Mm-hmm. So be around her. It's not going to be very much longer. But in that time frame of the last 4 or 5 days of her life, she contracted COVID either from a care nurse facility or, you know, something, right? And they labeled it a COVID death. So we had a motorcycle accident, died in an accident, but had COVID. It was a COVID death. So I just think that when you post these things to give people an opinion other than what's being out there as a regular narrative, you should be able to voice that opinion. I think people that opposed Dr. Fauci in the beginning should have been able to do that. I think people that, I mean, the former president of the United States of America is banned from social media. How is that even possible? And if they can do it to somebody that powerful, they can do that to you in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
And me in a heartbeat. Yeah. So it's very frustrating. And just like you said, you have to walk on eggshells. And that's because they require you to, because you will comply or you can't get your message out.
Exactly.
Which is just absurd to me.
It is absolutely absurd because that takes away my ability to express myself and my points of view. And I feel like it's up to the viewers to decide the value of the information. It's up to them to be like, no, I don't think that's real. I'm going to do my research. It's up to them. It's not up to a governmental entity to do that for them.
Exactly.
Because then we end up in a bubble of
what government allows you to listen to and allows you to see is what's going on. And they say, oh, it's a private business. Government is controlling that private business. There is no if, ors, ands, or buts about it. They owe each other favors. Look at the recall. The guy at Netflix, the owner of Netflix, just gave the governor $3 million to help support him in the recall. I mean, so it's a quid pro quo thing. When you look at what Gavin Newsom did at the French Laundry, he was there with the most major high-profile people of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now Blue Cross Blue Shield has the contract to administer vaccines and set up the vaccine program. So, I mean, when you look at behind the scenes of all the stuff that goes on, there's a reason that our freedom of speech in these public squares, although they are private business, is government controlled.
Yeah, and you know, going off of the vaccines idea, so I heard that Gavin Newsom today will be announcing some perks for getting a vaccination. You know, they're going to create the lottery. They're going to create get a vacation getaway.
Taxpayer dollars. So thank you for contributing, because Gavin Newsom is going to
my pleasure.
Oh yeah. So it started out as $50 gift cards for every person that gets a vaccine. And then that wasn't working very well. So now they've got vacations to Palm Desert, Palm Springs, San Diego. So vacation packages. You can be in a lottery to do that. And and another thing they're doing is thousands of dollars. And then the big prize is 10 people in the state will get 1.5. You can instantly become a millionaire. 10 people in the state will get $1.5 million of taxpayer money if their name is drawn if they get a vaccine.
And you know what absolutely blows my mind is if this vaccine is so good for you, why are they trying to convince so many people to take it with money, with perks? It makes absolutely no sense. What is the point?
On the file, because you just made me think of that. So on the file, there's a thing that says you can't do tests on cats and dogs, like lab tests on cats and dogs. They want to protect cats and dogs. Yeah. But if anybody gets a vaccine, it's only been researched for 6 months, right? And it hasn't been, there's not a huge study of long-term effects, brain lesions, blood clots. There's no long-term effect study on this vaccine. It's only been in use for the last 6 months or 8 months now.
And it's not even referred to as actually a vaccine. It's a jab or a...
It's a jab or it's not even, and a lot of them aren't even...
Therapy.
They're experimental therapies, and they're not even FDA... They're FDA approved, but only for emergency purposes, right? Yeah. So, if you think about it, they're not going to let animals can't test anymore for vaccines or any type of drugs.
But people can.
When you think about it, because that's what you are as a test case. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I was in the military, and
Yeah.
I mean, I got vaccinated. I've been overseas. I've been to Africa.
Yeah.
I traveled in the military.
We all got that penicillin shot, right?
Yeah, we all got. I mean, in the military, you actually just walk, and they just jab you
Yeah.
with these, and it's not needles. So it's like an air gun.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Then you go to the next group, jab, next group, and you're sick
Yeah, I
for days
remember.
because you get injected so
Yeah,
much, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
in the arm. My arm bled. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just think that you should have the choice. Now,
Yeah.
we're not all in the military. In the military, they say go through the line. You go through the line.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's all there is to it. You follow orders. That's your job. That's it. So, but, I mean, we're citizens of the United
Yeah.
States of America, and we're not serving in any military capacity. And so why should we be forced to get a vaccine if you choose not to get a vaccine?
Exactly.
Now, if you do, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you shouldn't. And you should not, just like we started out the conversation, be segregated, discriminated against. Oh, you're not, go put a mask
I'm a
on.
non-masker.
Yeah, just stay.
Yeah.
I
And
know I went to Costco the other day and I didn't have a mask on. I wore it in because they make you, and then I took it off and I got it in.
You rebel.
And I know. Anyways, so I didn't have a mask on, and I was at the grocery store and I didn't have a mask on, and this person goes, "You're Shannon Grove." I go, and she says, "You don't have a mask on." I go, "I know, but you do. So it's okay.
That's my argument.
It's okay."
You're safe with your mask on, right?
Right.
So what's crazy is the other day I went to Staples in Yuba City, a corporation. I went to Staples. I was doing an event, so I got some stuff printed. They called the cops on me because
way.
I wasn't wearing a mask. So we were using city resources to come at me and
For
to
not wearing
escort me out of Staples. And the police officer himself said, man, I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm just doing my job. And I was like, I get it. I respect you guys. I love you guys. It's not your fault. But why are we using our resources like this? 2 squad cars showed up for me.
City resources.
City resources being squandered. And it blows my mind.
So, just in perspective, right? So I represent the county in the state of California, which produces 70% of the state's oil and gas.
Wow.
There's an H2S gas out there, and you have to have a monitor with a respiratory packets. I mean, it's not a mask; it's a face mask, but it covers your eyes, it covers your face. It has these filters here. It's approved. I forget what it's called, but anyways, it's in the oil industry. And that does not allow that H2S gas to get in there because you can almost die instantly. It almost smells like rotten eggs.
Yeah.
Okay, so the H2S gas is smaller than the virus of the COVID-19 virus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that a mask, just those masks that we're required to wear, are going to block that virus from going in you, it would be just as like saying you could go out there safely in the H2S gas environment, right?
Yeah.
And totally be safe, and they would look at you like you're nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the gaping holes and people wearing them down here, it's a political statement.
It
and
is.
for somebody to say it's not,
Yeah.
they're not even looking. To somebody to say it is not a political statement on both sides of the aisle, it's just not true.
It's not true.
It's not true because
Yeah.
the bottom line is that mask is doing nothing to protect you.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
And it's kind of like a Twilight Zone scene, just like I went to Starbucks earlier, they had a mask with a clear covering over the mouth, and the rest was all dark around the back. So it's like,
So
I
you could smile.
So I could see your smile, but like it's weird. It's like something out of a weird documentary movie. I'm just like, I feel like I'm in 1984. George Orwell.
Oh, gosh.
It just blows my mind.
It's just crazy. And, I look at these law enforcement guys over here, which you brought up earlier, and, we just got to cover our law enforcement in prayer. When they had the riots here at the Capitol last year, Gavin Newsom we had a worship service with Sean Foyt, and he got up the next day and he's like, it's not a matter of if, but when people will die from this event. A worship service. There was like 6,000 people here, 7,000 people, something. But then 3 days earlier, and then 5 days later, they had thousands of people, Antifa, marching. They were throwing rocks at the police. The CHP was coming into this Capitol. One guy was being held by 2 of his friends. His face was bleeding. He got hit with a cement-filled water bottle. And Gavin Newsom is out there, and I'm paraphrasing, but the quote was something like this: "For those of you out there protesting, your rage is real, and we're with you." I mean, really? Really?
It's disgusting.
It's so discriminatory. It is so political and so discriminatory. What's good for Antifa to gather would be good for worship leaders to gather.
Exactly.
Right? If the worship event is a super spreader event, then so is the protest.
But we choose. We know the repercussions. We know the possibility of possibly getting sick. it's our choice. We want to worship. We want to congregate together.
Whether you worship or go to that event.
That's our choice.
Yes.
That is our choice. And, you know, we're running out of time,
That's
unfortunately.
the beauty of America. It's our choice.
And you know, we're running out of time. It's been such a pleasure. I feel like I could continue talking to you for
You're
another...
so awesome. And I'm so sorry it took so long. It's just been a hectic schedule.
No, absolutely. So, like, maybe we could set up another time sometime,
I'd like it.
further down the road. But
and, you know, after June 15th, we may be able to go on the Capitol.
That'd be so fun. I would love that.
And
So
we'll do
thank you
that.
so much.
Thank
you know,
you.
thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it.
Nice to meet
Got to
you
know
guys.
Shannon Grove, Senator Shannon Grove. She's amazing. So thank you guys so much, and thank you. Subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe to my channel. All right, cool.